Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Today, we're going to dive into a complex and important topic, the Muslim population in Myanmar. This is a subject with a long history and many nuances, so buckle up for an informative journey. We'll start by exploring how Islam first arrived in Myanmar centuries ago, tracing its spread through trade and cultural exchange. Then we'll look at some numbers. How many Muslims are there in Myanmar today? Where do they live? We'll break down the demographics as best we can, given the challenges in getting accurate data. From there, we'll paint a picture of daily life for Muslims in Myanmar. What kind of jobs do they have? Which parts of the country do they call home? This will give us a sense of how Muslim communities fit into the broader tapestry of Myanmar society. Of course, we can't talk about this topic without addressing the serious challenges facing many Muslims in Myanmar. We'll discuss some of the major issues, from citizenship concerns to instances of violence and displacement. Finally, we'll tackle the sensitive topic of Islamophobia in Myanmar. Are there organizations promoting anti-Muslim sentiment? What does this struggle look like on the ground? Throughout this exploration, we'll aim for a balanced perspective, recognizing the complexity of the situation and the diversity of experiences within Myanmar's Muslim communities. Let's get started. Let's dive deeper into how Islam spread to the region and its early development there. The story of Islam in Myanmar, formerly known as Burma, begins over 1,000 years ago. The earliest Muslim contacts with the region date back to the 8th and 9th centuries, primarily through Arab and Persian traders who sailed the Bay of Bengal. These merchants established trading posts along the coastline, particularly in the Rakhine region, now Rakhine State. During the 9th and 10th centuries, Muslim sailors and traders began settling more permanently in coastal areas. They formed small communities, intermarrying with locals and gradually spreading their faith. The port city of Sittwe, then called Akiab, became an important center for these early Muslim settlers. Islam's influence grew significantly during the reign of King Naramekla in the 15th century. After being deposed, Naramekla sought refuge with the Sultan of Bengal. When he returned to reclaim his throne in 1430 with the help of Bengali forces, he brought with him Muslim advisors and soldiers. This marked the beginning of a period of significant Islamic influence in the Arakan court. The 16th and 17th centuries saw a flourishing of Islamic culture in Arakan. The kingdom maintained close ties with the Mughal Empire and other Muslim states. During this time, many Muslims held high positions in the royal court, and Islamic architecture began to appear in the region. The arrival of the British in the 19th century brought another wave of Muslim immigration. The colonial administration encouraged labor migration from India, including many Muslims from Bengal and other parts of the subcontinent. These migrants often worked as laborers, merchants, or in the colonial bureaucracy. It's important to note that the spread of Islam in Myanmar wasn't uniform. While coastal regions like Arakan saw significant Muslim influence early on, the central heartland of Burma remained predominantly Buddhist. This geographical distribution of religious communities would later play a role in inter-communal tensions. By the early 20th century, distinct Muslim communities had formed in Myanmar. These included the Rohingya in Rakhine State, the Panthay, Chinese Muslims, in the northeast, and various groups of Indian Muslims in urban centers. The period leading up to Myanmar's independence in 1948 saw increasing tensions between different ethnic and religious groups. The complex interplay of colonial policies, nationalist movements, and religious identities set the stage for many of the challenges that Myanmar's Muslim communities would face in the post-independence era. This history helps explain the diverse origins of Myanmar's Muslim population and provides context for understanding their place in the country's complex social fabric. It's a story of trade, cultural exchange, political alliances, and migration, all of which have shaped the experiences of Muslims in Myanmar up to the present day. Let us now analyze the demographic structure of the Muslim population in Myanmar in more depth. This is a complex and somewhat contentious topic, as reliable data can be hard to come by and different sources often provide varying figures. According to the 2014 Myanmar Population and Housing Census, which is the most recent official nationwide survey, Muslims make up about 4.3% of the country's population. This would translate to roughly 2.3 million people out of Myanmar's total population of about 54 million. However, it's crucial to note that this figure is disputed by many experts and international organizations. There are a few reasons for this. 1. The census was controversial, with reports of some Muslims, particularly Rohingya, being excluded from the count. 2. Some Muslims may have been hesitant to identify themselves as such due to fears of discrimination. 3. The census didn't count a significant portion of Rakhine State, where many Muslims lived. As a result, many researchers and international organizations estimate that the actual percentage of Muslims in Myanmar could be higher, possibly between 5 to 6% of the population. Some estimates go as high as 10%, but these higher figures are less commonly accepted. Regarding the breakdown between Sunni and Shia Muslims, the vast majority of Muslims in Myanmar are Sunni. Precise figures are hard to come by, but it's estimated that over 99% of Myanmar's Muslims are Sunni. The Shia population is very small, possibly less than 1% of the total Muslim population. Here's a rough breakdown of the major Muslim groups in Myanmar. 1. Rohingya, the largest Muslim group, primarily located in Rakhine State. Their numbers are particularly difficult to estimate due to the refugee crisis and disputed citizenship status. 2. Burmese Muslims, also known as Myanmar Muslims. They are ethnically Myanmar, the majority ethnic group in Myanmar, who practice Islam. 3. Indian Muslims, descendants of immigrants from various parts of South Asia during the British colonial period. 4th Panthay, Chinese Muslims, mainly found in the northeast of the country. 5th Khmer, a small community native to Rakhine State, distinct from the Rohingya. It's worth noting that the distribution of the Muslim population isn't even across the country. The highest concentrations are found in Rakhine State, Yangon region, and Mandalay region. These figures and breakdowns are subject to debate and may have changed since the last available data, especially considering the large-scale displacement of Rohingya Muslims since 2017. Any current estimates should be treated with caution, and it's always good to cross-reference multiple sources when citing specific numbers. The demographics of religious groups in Myanmar remain a sensitive and often politicized issue. All right, let's delve into the daily lives and activities of Muslims in Myanmar, as well as where they're primarily located. This is a diverse community, so experiences can vary quite a bit depending on factors like location, ethnicity, and socioeconomic status. Muslims in Myanmar are spread throughout the country, but there are some areas with higher concentrations. The largest Muslim populations are found in 1. Rakhine State, particularly in the northern areas, though this has changed dramatically due to recent conflicts and displacements. 2nd Yangon region, the largest city and commercial center of Myanmar, has a significant Muslim population. 3rd Mandalay region, the second largest city, also has a notable Muslim community. 4. Other urban centers, cities like Maulamin, Taungi, and Sitwe, have Muslim populations. In terms of daily activities, many Muslims in Myanmar are involved in trade and commerce. In urban areas, you'll find Muslims running small businesses like grocery stores, restaurants, and fabric shops. Some work in larger industries or as professionals in fields like medicine, education, or engineering. In Yangon and other major cities, Muslims often live in mixed neighborhoods, though there are some areas known for having higher concentrations of Muslim residents. These communities often center around local mosques, which serve not just as places of worship, but also as community centers. In rural areas, particularly in Rakhine State before the recent crises, many Muslims were involved in agriculture and fishing. Farming rice, vegetables, and raising livestock were common occupations. Education is highly valued in many Muslim communities, though access can be a challenge, especially for groups like the Rohingya, who face legal and social barriers. In areas where they can access education, many Muslim youth attend public schools and some continue to universities. Religious life plays a significant role for many. Daily prayers, Friday congregational prayers, and religious festivals like Eid al-Fitr and Eid al-Adha are important parts of community life. However, public expressions of faith can sometimes be limited due to social and political pressures. Dietary practices are an important aspect of daily life for many Muslims in Myanmar. Halal food is available in areas with significant Muslim populations, though it can be more challenging to find in other parts of the country. It's important to note that the experiences of Muslims in Myanmar can vary greatly. For instance, in Yangon, a Muslim professional might lead a life not too different from their non-Muslim neighbors, working in an office, socializing with diverse groups of friends while also attending the local mosque. In parts of Rakhine State, particularly for Rohingya, daily life has been severely disrupted by conflict and restrictions, with many facing limitations on movement, work, and access to basic services. The political and social climate in Myanmar has made life challenging for many Muslims in recent years. Discrimination and occasional violence have led some to be cautious about openly expressing their faith or cultural identity. Despite these challenges, many Muslims in Myanmar continue to play active roles in their communities and in the nation's economic life. There are Muslim civil society organizations working to promote interfaith harmony and protect the rights of religious minorities. Remember, this is a broad overview and individual experiences can vary widely. When creating your video, it might be valuable to include personal stories or interviews if possible, to give a more nuanced picture of daily life for Muslims in Myanmar. Let's take a look at the difficulties and problems faced by the Muslim population in Myanmar. This is a complex and sensitive topic, with issues ranging from discrimination to violence and displacement. The problems faced by Muslims in Myanmar, particularly the Rohingya, have garnered significant international attention in recent years. Here's an overview of the main issues: citizenship and legal status. One of the most pressing issues, especially for the Rohingya, is the lack of citizenship rights. The 1982 citizenship law effectively rendered many Rohingya stateless. Without citizenship, they face severe restrictions on movement, education, healthcare, and employment opportunities. Many are confined to camps or specific areas, unable to travel freely within the country. Violence and persecution. There have been multiple episodes of communal violence targeting Muslims, particularly in Rakhine State. The most severe occurred in 2012 and 2017, leading to widespread destruction of Muslim communities and mass displacement. Reports of human rights abuses, including killings, sexual violence, and destruction of property, have been extensively documented by international organizations. Forced displacement. Following the violence in 2017, hundreds of thousands of Rohingya fled to neighboring Bangladesh. Many live in overcrowded refugee camps with limited resources and uncertain futures. Those who remained in Myanmar often live in internally displaced persons, IDP camps with poor conditions and limited freedom of movement. Economic marginalization. Muslims, especially those without citizenship, face significant barriers to employment and economic opportunities. Many are restricted from owning land or businesses, limiting their ability to improve their economic situation. Educational barriers. Access to education is severely limited for many Muslims, particularly the Rohingya. Many children in IDP camps or restricted areas have little to no access to formal schooling. Even in areas where they can attend school, discrimination and language barriers can pose significant challenges. Healthcare challenges. Limited access to healthcare is a major issue, especially in rural areas and IDP camps. This has led to preventable deaths and a generally poor health status among affected communities. Religious freedom. While Myanmar officially allows freedom of religion in practice, Muslims often face restrictions on religious practices. There have been instances of mosques being closed or destroyed, and difficulties in obtaining permission to renovate or build new religious structures. Political representation. Muslims are severely underrepresented in Myanmar's political system. In recent elections, major parties have largely excluded Muslim candidates, limiting the community's political voice. Social discrimination. Many Muslims face day-to-day discrimination in various aspects of life. This can range from difficulty renting homes or finding employment to verbal harassment and social exclusion. Media representation. Muslims, particularly Rohingya, are often portrayed negatively in local media, which has contributed to the spread of anti-Muslim sentiment. Impact of COVID-19. The pandemic has exacerbated many of these issues, with Muslim communities often having limited access to healthcare and information, and facing increased economic hardship. It's important to note that while the Rohingya have faced the most severe and well-documented issues, other Muslim communities in Myanmar also experience varying degrees of discrimination and challenges. The situation is further complicated by Myanmar's complex political landscape, including the military coup in 2021, which has created additional uncertainty and potential for further marginalization of minority groups. International response to these issues has been significant, with various countries and organizations calling for action to protect the rights of Muslims in Myanmar. However, finding effective solutions has proven challenging due to the complex historical, political, and social factors at play. Finally, let's take a look at the issue of Islamophobia in Myanmar. Islamophobia in Myanmar has roots in historical, political, and economic factors, but it has become more pronounced in recent years. It's often fueled by a combination of nationalist rhetoric, misinformation, and long-standing communal tensions. One of the most prominent Islamophobic organizations in Myanmar is the Mabatha, or the Association for the Protection of Race and Religion. Founded in 2013, this Buddhist nationalist group has been at the forefront of anti-Muslim campaigns. They've advocated for laws restricting interfaith marriages and religious conversions, which many see as targeting Muslims. The group has organized protests, distributed anti-Muslim literature, and used social media to spread their message. Another influential figure in the spread of Islamophobia has been the monk Ashin Wirathu, often referred to as the Buddhist bin Laden by some media outlets. His sermons and social media posts have frequently contained anti-Muslim rhetoric, contributing to heightened tensions. The struggle against Islam in Myanmar has manifested in several ways. 1. Legislative measures. Laws like the Race and Religion Protection Laws, passed in 2015, are seen by many as discriminatory against Muslims. These laws regulate interfaith marriages, religious conversions, and family planning. 2. Hate speech and misinformation. Social media platforms have been used to spread anti-Muslim sentiment, often through false or misleading information. This has sometimes preceded outbreaks of violence against Muslim communities. 3. Economic boycotts. There have been campaigns to boycott Muslim-owned businesses, often spreading through social media. 4. Violence and intimidation. In extreme cases, Islamophobia has led to violence against Muslim individuals and communities, destruction of property, and forced displacement. 5. Political marginalization. Major political parties have largely excluded Muslim candidates, particularly in recent elections, limiting Muslim representation in government. 6. Media representation. Some local media outlets have been criticized for biased reporting on Muslim issues, contributing to negative stereotypes. The roots of this Islamophobia are complex. Some factors include historical tensions between Buddhist and Muslim communities, particularly in Rakhine State, economic disparities and competition for resources in some areas, political manipulation of religious tensions for various agendas, fears of cultural and demographic changes, often based on misinformation. It's important to note that there are also many individuals and organizations in Myanmar working to combat Islamophobia and promote interfaith harmony. These include civil society groups, interfaith dialogue initiatives, and some progressive political voices. International organizations have also been involved in monitoring and reporting on Islamophobia in Myanmar. Groups like Human Rights Watch, Amnesty International, and various UN bodies have documented instances of discrimination and violence against Muslims. The Myanmar government's response to Islamophobia has been criticized by many international observers as inadequate. While there have been some efforts to promote interfaith dialogue, critics argue that not enough has been done to protect Muslim communities or to counter hate speech. The situation is further complicated by Myanmar's broader political challenges, including the 2021 military coup, which has created additional uncertainty for all minority groups in the country. When discussing Islamophobia in Myanmar, it's crucial to approach the topic with sensitivity and to rely on well-documented sources. It's also important to recognize that while Islamophobia is a serious issue, many people in Myanmar do not hold these views, and there are ongoing efforts to promote tolerance and understanding between different religious communities. All right, as we wrap up our deep dive into the complex situation of Muslims in Myanmar, I hope this video has given you a clearer picture of the history, demographics, daily life, and challenges faced by these communities. It's a multifaceted issue with no easy answers, but understanding is the first step towards positive change. If you found this information valuable and want to learn more about similar topics, please consider subscribing to my channel. I'm committed to bringing you in-depth, balanced explorations of important global issues that don't always make the headlines. By subscribing, you'll be supporting more content like this and joining a community of viewers who are passionate about understanding our world better. Don't forget to hit that notification bell too, so you'll know right away when I post new videos. And if you have any thoughts or experiences related to this topic, I'd love to hear from you in the comments section below. Your perspectives can help enrich our understanding even further. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Stay curious and keep learning. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.